That was great.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Scott. I'm with you now.
Hold on, Greg's frozen. Hands up, Greg.
You know, my internet connection is unstable.
It won't
Wait,
let
I
you,
know his position.
it won't let you clap.
This is very
One,
familiar.
2,
Wait,
3.
this Scott or
1.
Oh,
Sorry. Greg asked a question in the middle of it because apparently these instructions are too complicated.
it's been a while since I've been in either this position or this position. So,
it's normally this position.
All right, that's close enough. You're listening to episode 179 of The Graveyard Shift, now with video.
Yes.
Lads, I just got an email from Just Eat, which means they know it's Friday. How are you doing, boys?
Yeah, doing well. Getting dizzy and just looking at Greg going back and forth like that. But life is weird. Life is weird.
at least you chose a nice background, Al.
Well, I had thought of getting the same wallpaper as Scott does, but I thought, you know what, I'm good with the clock. The clock is good.
I think
Scott
everyone
looks
knows.
like he's in. Scott looks like he's in the 70s or 60s right now.
Yeah, I mean, everyone knows that this was not a house that was built recently. You'll see here a door to get into the room, but down here, this is actually a mini door. It's like a hole in the wall to the kitchen where the servants can drop through the food. I mean, I don't have servants, but I think historically that's the reason it is the way it is.
Have you got the intern still living there?
Now I'm looking at the door. Before I was looking off screen. And Alan's. Are you in the church? Where are you at?
No, I'm in my office. I mean, I could put the other way around so you could see my glorious bookshelves, but I'm happy with the simplicity.
It looks like you have one of those foldable doors. Looks like you have one of those foldable doors.
It does, yeah. Whatever's happening in the corner.
Right there?
No, the other side.
No.
This side.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I have no.
This thing here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, great! Now you made him freeze.
Years ago, this was a smart house, and they had all the wires go up to the attic, and it is now no longer a smart house.
Hence your internet problems.
You've no idea. Oh, you do have an idea, but yeah.
So
if I was a long time listener or even a short time listener of this podcast, I'd be out.
Most of our listeners right now are going, this is when I posted a photo the other day of the three of us, and I was saying like time to record a podcast or something like that. Somebody messaged me and was like, please tell me who is who so that I can match the names to the voices, because I've been listening but I don't actually know whose face is whose.
Oh, it'd be interesting to find out if they got it right.
Yeah, exactly. So I think most people at the moment.
The deep, masculine, manly voice of wisdom is coming from me, obviously.
Obviously.
Obviously, the cost-benefit of getting into that conversation, it is not worth my time to correct how wrong you are.
Greg, where did you rent all those books that you have in behind you?
My designer put them there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Is that the picture of the designer right behind you?
No, that's my, that print is called, It Looks Like Rain, Dear.
It's definitely, oh, wow. Because it's not cheap.
It's a
pun.
pun.
Pretty
is that
dear.
what the caption actually is?
It is.
Yeah. Oh, man.
No, this is like, so.
Are these your unpublished books?
These are all the books that I wrote that no one bought.
Deal for.
These are the ones. Yeah, these are the books I couldn't get a deal for. Yeah, yeah,
okay.
absolutely.
Cool.
There's more. I have a whole room of them.
As well.
There's also some laser discs and some beta tape.
Oh, beta
Look it up,
tape.
kids. Look it up, kids.
Wow.
So how are you lads handling life in the new world, in the new normal?
Yeah, I'm seeing all these different pictures from like Mad Max, Fury Road, and all these what the apocalypse is actually going to look like, and the parallels are just not even there. It's interesting that in end times we all needed toilet roll to survive in this new world.
Do you have? I don't have a shortage of toilet roll.
No.
Although I will say, I was in.
Here we are.
Are you, Alan? Are you on the toilet? Is that what's going on right now?
I don't want to talk about it.
I can neither confirm nor deny reports.
Are you drinking water on the toilet? Well, I guess it's efficient.
Always. Always.
And Scott looks like he's just entered like the red zone on some
Oh wow,
kind of
dude! Seriously,
zombie apocalypse Xbox game.
The sun just comes pouring in this window, so I'm being blinded. So I decided to just embrace. I mean, it looks like I'm wearing my skin inside out, but hey, what can you do?
It's a good embrace.
No, I went to the store and like bananas and apples and some stuff. Anyways, but I walked past the aisle for toilet paper and I was like, I think I need more of that. I need more of that. And so I got home and my wife was like, we don't need more toilet paper. Leave it for the people who need it, like Al. You know, so yeah. It is interesting because you do convince yourself that you need something that you don't when everybody else is buying stuff that they don't need. So that scarcity mentality does exist. So even though Ireland's doing pretty good.
I saw that the other day in Tesco because I went out and I was trying to get some bread and there was no bread at all. But they did have like these multi-seed flatbreads. And I was like, oh, well, I'll definitely get them and I'll definitely make sandwiches with them. The next day there was more bread and those multi-seed flatbreads are still sitting there going out of date. Like that's not going to be, they're not getting
that is fantastic.
But there is something else.
It is true.
The social experiment of just like if you could watch people shop and by watching them shop see what like desires it evokes in people would be fascinating because obviously there's like kind of like herd mentality. And so have you guys been like, well, I can say for myself, I was at an event with two people who tested positive for the coronavirus. So we called the HSE, the Health Service Executive here in Ireland, and immediately went into lockdown for the last 2 weeks, which just ended earlier this week. So we couldn't even go out and do our own shopping. And so we had people from around our community who were helping out and stuff. But that was pretty tough going, I won't lie. Really, really glad it's over. But we definitely found it a real struggle. Yeah. How have you guys been finding it yourselves?
I mean, what was the biggest, what was the main struggles about?
Part of it was admitting that I needed help. I hate that. So asking people if they could go and do a shop for us.
I've been telling you that you needed help for a long time, Scott.
Yeah, I mean,
but Greg, the problem was you were offering that help, and it was like, no.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Go on.
Yeah. It's
I'm
like
chastised.
It's like calling the wrong number. It's like ringing an arsonist instead of the fireman. Just because you knew I needed help. I wasn't looking for the kind of help an arsonist can offer. So
different type of help. That's great.
So I really didn't like that. I also really felt limited in terms of the simple things like being able to just like go to the shop and get like spaghetti to make carbonara or something like that. Like where like, you know, like the being able to have the autonomy to be able to like create something, choose what I'm going to eat, like just simple things like that, which I'm very aware in 2 weeks time, it is going to be the least of my worries. I still find it annoying in the moment. And actually, one of the things I've been trying to come to terms with is there's a bunch of things that are little frustrations of this at the moment that by the time this crisis is over will look like, probably deck chairs on the Titanic. But they are annoying me now. And so I'm trying to figure out how do I let myself be annoyed about those things while also going, because you don't want to deny your emotions or be like, no, you shouldn't feel that, you know, but also going, Scott, you are not at the place yet of fully understanding what this is going to be. And so I'm trying to be like, so it's almost like I'm trying to process emotions that I don't have yet. By ignoring the emotions I'm feeling at the moment. So I'm trying to figure out how do I bring it back and be present, but also have a deep sense of perspective. So I don't know. It's a bit of an inner wobble with that, trying to figure that out.
It has been a bizarre thing as well. I know, obviously, for even the last so many years, you'll hear people say first world problems. And now I think there's a lot of people who are having to try and figure that out for themselves. What is the issue that actually is a non-issue? but it's dealing with the individual for yourself, along with then other people as well.
Mm.
It's like Greg's mic now has just eyes.
I'm
I
sorry.
mean,
Sorry. I was listening.
I'm
I was
seeing
sitting
it.
back.
Yeah,
It was
I
no, it was
was
good.
listening.
It was good.
It looks
No, I
like
was
what we
listening.
it looks like what we actually ordered was a retractable Greg that pushes out of the top of the microphone.
Oh, perfect. Oh, yes, that's beautiful.
Uh, Zoom humor.
Oh
Zoomer. That's
man.
what we Okay, Boomer, come back to
Oh,
the thing.
Zoomer, baby.
Um and Al, how have you been doing with it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very bizarre thing. I mean, on so many levels, it's kind of it is so serious. I think so many of us a couple of weeks
Mm,
ago, we weren't taking it as serious as actually what it is,
mm,
in relation to it being, I mean, as just a cold, people will be fine. But when it becomes closer to home, and then you hear of people who you know who are getting this, who are
mm,
going into self isolation, where you hear people who are getting quite sick from it, it's the reality is there.
mm,
And I think, like, even from a church perspective, I mean, like, this is the sermon that churches all around the globe have given. If the church was closed, what impact would it have?
mm,
And now
Yeah.
here we are. And
mm,
on one level, it's a
What's the
great.
answer?
Well, I think each church is actually figuring out whether they have an answer for that. I mean, like,
mhm,
No, but
if
like,
people have.
doesn't matter.
Well, I think it does. I mean, like, I think it's. I mean, one of the things I've been really encouraged by is, even when we're contacting the different people in the community, whether it be via WhatsApp or text message or emails, or doing our different services and all that sort of stuff, where people are able to respond into. Hearing how communities are setting up WhatsApp groups so that no one is going to be left out, that if shopping is needed, if medication is needed to be got. Because I think when you have a community that is of such a vast variety of age and health,
mm,
the impact is very real. So when you have somebody who has come down with something or goes into self-isolation, there is the, oh wow, oh listen, what can I do? Or, sorry, who's that? And I think that's a real good question for all of us to be in, as to how we are responding in our different situations that we find ourselves, as to how we define community. Is it just by, and we've talked about this for so long, is it just by what we do on a Sunday or a Wednesday Bible study, and we're trying to reconnect, or we need to keep those things going
mm.
for people to still feel connected? Really, that's the answer? Just kind of doing what we always do and hope that, oh, it's a little different, it's a bit more creative, but it's the other stuff that actually is a real priority. Like, we're doing our online services, recordings. We did a visual thing yesterday. I hate doing the visual thing. But even as we did it yesterday, we had a big meeting about it. When I say
Did you
big,
get out the ribbons? Did you get out the ribbons, like the
no,
twirly
no,
flags and ribbons?
that's going to happen in a couple of weeks. I'm
Okay.
working on my
They've actually
interpretive
they've actually
dance.
posted them to everyone's houses for the response to it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, they have.
Um, but but I think it's the conversation came about where everybody was getting really psyched up about what we could do. And I'm saying, guys, our priority is not our Sunday morning service. Our
Mm,
priority
Mm.
is not the communion service that we're doing through the week. Our priority is making sure people feel connected in this
mm.
isolation, that people feel that they are part of something that cares for them, even if they're not being seen.
I,
And that's,
And do you
yeah,
think that's a departure for the church? Not your
I think,
church, just the church in general.
no, I think for some churches it really is, and I actually think for some churches it's a wake up call when you're phoning. Hey, do you need shopping? Oh no, it's okay. My neighborhood watch have set up a WhatsApp group, and we're
yeah.
looking out for each other.
Hmm.
It's fantastic. I mean, and
Hmm.
I think there's some churches that are now in a position where they're going, "Oh, we are so behind." The reality
Hmm.
is
Mm-hmm.
hitting. Now we are so behind.
Yeah.
So for the churches that feel they have
And
to be
why don't you think? But why it's interesting to me that we're behind in an area that seems like something we should have always been ahead in.
Mm,
Not that it's a
well,
race.
No, but has it not been? I mean, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago about how the world, in so many ways, has caught up with so many of the values that the church had, but the world has overtaken in some of those values, and the church has. I mean, and the church still has its place and its rightful place in the area of trying to bring hope in a time when it is so difficult. I mean, now, I mean, obviously, as unfortunately as funerals come, there's going to be the question of when it's a family only affair. You've got
Mm,
6 or 7 people who are only allowed to be at that. As time goes on, it's more the response of what it's going to be like in 3 months' time.
mm,
When this maybe has subsided and everything goes back to normal,
mm,
well, I got used to not being there because I couldn't, and I actually found better stuff somewhere
mm.
else, and I feel my needs are being met. So,
Mm.
well, what does life look like then?
Yeah, I think what is an interesting way to kind of take our temperature in terms of the question that you're asking there, Greg, is when a crisis like this happens, do you start building trust with the community at that point, or do you start leveraging that trust towards being able to actually serve people? So is this
Yeah,
the starting point of building a relationship with your local community where hopefully they trust you and are willing to engage? And when
Yeah.
you say,
Yeah.
we're going to come through for you, they believe you? Or is it a case of us going, okay,
Mhm.
now that we can't touch or talk to people, let's go try and touch lives and talk to people, which seems like the reverse thing
yeah,
to be doing. And so
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
there's going to be some really difficult lessons that are learned. I think a lot of churches that think they are maybe more successful than they are going to have a bit of a rude awakening. And then there are other churches that are realizing that actually not meeting on Sundays has not massively changed how much
yeah,
Mhm.
engagement they have with people.
Mhm.
And so
yeah,
yeah,
Mhm.
so I think it'll be an interesting way to, as I say, take our temperature. And yet at the same time, like, it requires a certain amount of self-awareness to be able to hear what the answers are there, and that also is not ubiquitous, shall we say. So I think you have to choose to participate in that. So
yeah.
it's yeah, it's yeah, I'm not sure. What do you think, Greg?
What's going on? Did I
Well,
miss something?
you asked a question and I wanted to know what
Yeah,
you think.
Is there something
Scott's
going
throwing
on
the
outside
question
of?
back to you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is there something going on in the world that I'm unaware of right now? I've been si- I've been at home for a couple weeks just reading.
There's a lot of things happening in the world, Greg, that you're not aware of.
Bring me
The
up to speed here. Bring.
So there's this
Oh,
thing
did you?
called there's these two things, they're called relationship and community, and they really dovetail in together.
Oh,
Hmm.
in the world? No. Did you hear that Jared Leto went on a silent retreat? He went on like a up to the mountains for like 2 weeks, where he had no contact, digital, everything,
oh,
and he came he
yeah,
came down,
yeah.
and it's like, what I miss?
What's going on?
Well,
Yeah,
And like
the picture that I saw of him doing it was him coming down in like a white cloak. Did you see this? Like,
I did see the photo. No, no,
no,
no.
like it's a picture of him in a white cloak, and he's surrounded by hundreds of people who are also in white cloaks, and the caption was just Jared Leto
Oh,
has started a cult. I was like, like, I don't know. I think there's a follow on from that story that takes
oh,
things in a
I'm
confusing
in. I'm
direction.
in. Count me
yeah.
in.
Let's look at that some other. Not now, but later.
He came back down
Look,
the
I just
mountain like at the end of the Transfiguration or something like that, when is suddenly calling people to follow him.
I'll just jump on a plane. There's nothing stopping me, right? No, I think that I think what you're both saying, I think it's very interesting. I think it's a very interesting time for institutions that trade on the tagline that we're here for you, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
But might not have been the best at exhibiting it
Yep.
uh, on a daily
yeah,
basis. And right now, I think like for the Church of our, we're all Anglican in this conversation, though this is not exclusively Anglican in any way, shape, or form. But like I would almost like the tagline to now just read Church of Ireland, what do you need?
Mm,
And all of our resources are put towards what are the greatest needs. And I think that self-awareness thing that you're talking about, Scott, I totally agree. It's like, look, hands up, we've not done a great job at establishing
mm,
trust in the local neighborhood. We don't know our neighbors. Okay, I'm going to own that, but I'm also going to readdress it and see how I can fix this
mhm,
so that I can start establishing trust that as this thing goes on for weeks and months, that
mhm.
they can call on me if they need anything.
Yeah.
We're
yeah,
fortunate that we live out in the countryside and our neighborhood's quite small.
Mhm,
And, actually, my wife Alex has been really, she's great at connecting with people around us.
mm,
And so we're able to say hello to the neighbors do you need anything? You know, and,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
we had an elderly lady across the street whose husband had passed away last year. And her house alarm went off the other night. And
Mm.
we all walked outside, and the whole, like, literally 4 or 5 houses emptied out, socially distanced on the
Yeah.
street to make sure she was okay. She
That's
wasn't there in
wonderful.
the end, but the response is a little bit more immediate because I think it's size does matter in this regard when it comes to
Mhm.
community.
Yeah.
It's easier to
Yeah.
look after 10 people than it is 2,000. So,
Mhm.
you know, it also makes me start, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, or maybe I do, but it also starts me questioning the concept of these mega churches. And
Yeah.
because though they can do some great things, like some of those mega churches were giving away free cars and fixing cars and
Mhm.
helping single parents have childcare and all this during other times. So there's good things with volume can bring
Yeah.
great things. But when it comes to crises like these, where you actually are restricted to your locale,
Mm.
Yeah.
and you don't know your neighbor's name,
Mm.
that's problematic.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
you know, I just think that I think I'm in total agree. I think I hope that we have the wherewithal to own the fact that we've done a good job, we can do a better job. We haven't done a good enough job, but we're going to change
Mhm.
and actually put all these things into motion
Yeah.
so that we can get I mean, it's not even about wrestling the moral authority back because
Mhm.
in Ireland, it's pretty much almost non-existent within the church
Mm.
on a macro level. Maybe in the rural communities or in the parishes that exist still, but it's about going, what do you need?
Mm.
And though we
Yeah.
might have failed in the past to meet this need, even on Sunday mornings, what is your greatest need right now?
Mm.
And how can we fulfill it? And if we can't, I want to be honest about that. I can't
Mm.
help you right now. I'm sorry. Is there anything else I can do? I don't know. So I actually think part of me, I want this, I know I'm waffling. I'm not waffling at all, but I'm going on a bit, but
Mhm.
that this crisis, it'll last for months, right? If
Yeah.
someone said to me right now, "Do you want it to end in a couple of weeks?" I'd say, "Yeah, absolutely," because I don't want anyone else to lose their lives or to be isolated or
Mhm.
alone. But when crises go on for a while, you move from, "Hey, this kind of sucks," to, "Oh, I don't know what to do with myself," to, "Oh, here we go," to all of a
Mhm.
sudden, "Okay, this is the new norm. So how do we actually just
Mhm.
and create a better world?"
Yeah.
Literally, if it's too short, it'll just be
Yeah.
one of those, do you remember that time when that little thing happened?
Yeah.
But if
If
it goes on a little bit longer, we might actually learn lessons that develop character that
Mhm.
create change, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, if it's a
Well,
short enough season, it becomes a meme. Whereas if
Yeah, yes.
if it goes on longer, it actually changes culture, and that's what's
I
going to
mean,
be absolutely fascinating to see in terms of how
And
this changes how we understand what it means for us to be ourselves and be connected to each other.
absolutely. And I want to be very clear. I don't want this to go on just so we can learn a lesson. It's not what I'm saying.
For
What I'm
no,
sure.
I
saying,
know. Yeah.
what I'm saying is that it does take us time. It takes me time to learn stuff.
Hmm.
It takes
Yeah.
me time to learn patience. It takes me time to learn to listen better. It takes me time to, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So
Hmm.
it's not, it won't be the worst thing if it goes on as far as learning things. But again, hear me when I say this. I would rather it
Hmm.
ended now so that less people would lose their lives and less people would be isolated and less people would, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, of course.
But
And
it is.
sorry.
Sorry, no, it is one of those things where we're seeing there is so much to learn in this because everything is changing. And even though we have technology where people can connect and interact with one another, it shows. And I'm not just saying that, especially in Ireland, but we are such a tactile nation. We are so up for being up close and touch and
Extreme,
seeing
extreme.
relationship what different type of touch but in all of that it's just trying to see where and how we learn even with the social distancing. Like it's been fascinating seeing how different nations have dealt with this or not dealt with this and thinking, oh no, I'm fine. And now that we're seeing, like I think was it yesterday in America, 3.3 million jobs were lost. I
Yeah.
mean, we've already seen here in Ireland over 200,000 jobs lost. This is going to hit hard. So even when the health issue
Hmm.
is done, there is
Yes.
going to be an economic and
Yeah.
a massive life change in
Yeah.
that people have not seen in their time, even going back generations, where
Mhm.
the impact of this is going to be felt. And I know we're saying now, well, we will pay for this, and it doesn't matter if it takes off years. People are, I think, going, oh, absolutely. But in 6 months' time, when we see our politicians then arguing and bickering over smaller, little insignificant things, are we going to have the same camaraderie that we have today? Because I've been so impressed with how in Ireland they've been dealing with things. And
Mm.
it's almost like this crisis has actually kicked the government into gear where there's a focus and they want to see what they can do best for people, and the brave decisions that they've taken, knowing that economically it was going to hit hard. Like when you see where other nations were a little slower to take that hit, Ireland were not that slow actually
Mm.
in, you know what, we just need to shut stuff down, which
Mm.
is incredible. But we know we're going to suffer for this as we go, but it's how we deal with one another in that suffering.
Mm.
I think the question is like,
Sorry, Greg.
how do we engage now? But also, how do we start having the conversation? Yes,
I was just
I'm
going to say
back.
start over. That your internet kind of garbled that first bit. So just start over there.
That's
Right
actually
there,
my
so.
speaking voice.
Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry. Sometimes I forget that
I
you get
can't
like
wait
that
for that
sometimes.
audio book.
No, it's the engagement of the now, but it's
Mm.
also an engagement in the not yet. It's like
Mhm.
saying, okay, we need to have conversations on a daily basis about how do we reach out to those who are in greatest need now.
Mhm.
But also we can't be afraid to be having those conversations about, all right, the knock-on effect of this. I was talking to a friend of mine, a psychologist, the other day, and I asked him, what do you think the knock-on effect of this is going to be? And he was saying that with SARS, there was definitely residual stuff going on there that they're still dealing with generationally, in the countries most affected. There is going to be there's going to be a tough knock-on effect, even psychologically, in the way that people approach hugging their grandparents,
Mhm.
or in the
Yeah,
way, the longer it
yeah,
goes on, the more deeply ingrained it'll become. And it's like, how do we become people who are looking at reaching out to those people who are going to be unemployed in a year's time? Or how do we reach out to the people who are psychologically struggling, need more therapy-based opportunities, about people who
yeah,
might be afraid to gather in large groups because they haven't gathered in groups for months on end. There is
yeah,
a knock-on effect that we can get ready for in the now. So it's like, how do we engage in the now, but also without fear look at the not yet, and also start to learn the lessons that we need for that, so we're ready for it,
Mm.
if you know what I mean.
Well, and those questions are going to be multi-layered. Like I love these conversations about trying to figure out, so what does this mean? Because it's essentially
Yeah.
meaningless, like it's like asking, well, I don't even know, because it's so beyond the pale in terms of cultural experiences. It's almost like asking, like, if somebody was to describe 9/11 as a thought exercise, and then say, what do you think the world will be like after it? When we go and we
Mm,
make these predictions,
mm,
some of the things
mm,
are going to be, clear kind of cultural trajectory stuff. There's going to be certain things that are just naturally going to happen to
yeah,
people, but other things will be more like the kind of Malcolm Gladwell Blink kind of stuff, like the unintended consequences of tragedy that make us think and
mhm,
act differently in ways that we
mhm.
couldn't have predicted, but now looking back make a weird sort of sense. um
Yeah.
and I think I'm thinking about doing a bit of writing on this, about the time when I was being bullied when I was in secondary school in Bangladesh. Sorry,
oh
had to
boy.
get it in somewhere. Um, it was most of the bullying happened in.
Is this where I advertise my book?
No, I'm going to finish with an advert for your book. This is a story from your book. I'm pretending to be you. Uh, there was a the worst of the bullying would happen in first period PE, which happened at the beginning of every school day. So first class PE, into the changing rooms, do PE, and then during changing in the changing rooms at the end was when the worst of the bullying always happened, which is bad touch and bad words and all that kind of stuff. But then I would
Yeah, yeah,
walk
yeah.
from we'd walk from the gym and from the changing rooms back, and we walk over this, like, past the playground, through this green area over towards our classrooms. And 80% of the time there's a guy called Gavin who would walk on his way to PE. and he was in the year above me, and I always looked up to him. And while these other older guys were always bullying me, Gavin was always a really positive influence on my life. And usually, just as we were coming under a certain tree, we would do that like handshake, and
Oh yeah.
without really saying anything, and then we'd walk. He, I bet, doesn't remember that. But as a young guy who didn't know what like it meant to be a man and stuff like that, this bigger, older guy who recognized me, and for him,
Yeah.
like a handshake or a high five, when I was that age, that was actually a huge deal. Like it was the one thing I looked forward to. Like it was the thing that was almost playing a part in redeeming what was going before. And the
Mm.
world in which we're entering into now, where the dynamic of our touch is changing, and touch is
Yeah.
no longer seen. I mean, touch has always been potentially safe or dangerous, but
Mm-hmm.
the fact that touch as a whole now is seen as dangerous, I think it's going to do something in our psyches. I'm not even going to pretend to know what, but I can't tell if the pendulum is going to swing towards when this is over. Almost like an overabundance of touch that's just like, it's just been so long, I want to, which is going to make a lot of people feel very uncomfortable. Or is it going to be this other thing where people are going to be like, I'm still not ready to go back to that. Like, and I'm really wondering what that's going to look like and how that's going to change the way in which we relate to each other.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm actually really thankful that in these situations, like I have, I have my kids here at home with us. We have a dog. Do you know what I mean? And so there's a certain amount of good physical affection that's taking place, because we're all isolated together. I can imagine it having a greater impact on those who don't have that family environment or that regular community environment, or even an animal at home that they can actually, have around. And so, yeah, I mean, the thing that annoys me most, not most, but one of the things that annoys me a lot about about COVID-19 is that it's affecting those who already are old and isolated or those with a compromised immune system. They already have a bad hand get dealt to them. It's already tough for them. Now, age you can't stop, obviously, but it's already tough enough. Now they have this on top of it as well, and it's just like, oh, come on, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's just
it's infuriating seeing that our systems are built in such a way that so that when people suffer, it's always those who are suffering most suffering, rather than it being spread equally across society. Because most of what we mean by wealth is our way of insulating ourselves from suffering and uncertainty.
Let alone the developing nations or prisoners in it's like it's one thing for me to go, oh, I haven't been outside. Well, I do. We get outside. Even me, I can walk up the country lane. There's no one here. And so we can get outside every day. It's like, oh, they don't have my favorite ice cream. Now I'm making this up because I don't actually eat ice cream anymore. But it's like that's my burden that I carry right now. Oh, you poor guy. You're not in an 8x4 cell. You're not in a developing nation that you don't have clean water. You're not alone and 78 years old and afraid. You're not, have a compromised immune system. I mean, it infuriates me when these things impact those, like you're saying, the least of these. I just kind of go, I mean, what? Yeah. I don't.
Yeah. No,
I think this is also
it just breaks my heart. Sorry, Scott. It just breaks my heart. It breaks my heart.
Absolutely. Times like this, they tend to reveal our values. So, did you see the absolute cringe fest that was Gal Gadot and her celebrity friends singing Imagine?
That's fantastic.
Are we not going to do that today?
That's the next episode.
I'll take the second verse.
And the third.
But if you want to look at like people misunderstanding the impact that they have on the world, people thinking that them singing a song that they didn't write into a camera and thinking that it changes anything, or that they that it could actually provide any practical change or usefulness. Like, it's a bizarre thing to even think of unless you completely misunderstand your own importance. And
Mm.
I think that's really relevant for us as Christians, because this question, in the same way that showed just how out of touch a bunch of these celebrities are, this is doing the same thing for us as churches and people of faith. Like, it's going, are you in touch with
And
the society around you, or is this going to reveal?
yeah.
Because one of the things that we've seen, we've seen a lot of organic responses to this crisis in terms of trying to meet people's needs and trying to serve communities, and we've seen other churches for whom it's like, oh, this is an excellent branding opportunity where we could really spread the word about our church by helping. And that, like, even the fact that this could be manipulated or exploited for that is terrifying.
But it is incredible as well to see people who are using it for the good. Like, I know there's been some celebrities, because they have that voice, like Amy Adams, I think it was, who set up a channel to have stories read by different celebrities for children.
It's awesome.
So people can tune in and they can have a story read by their, that sort of, like Jake Gyllenhaal. There's a whole load of people who are reading their favorite.
I'm sorry.
Did you just call him Jake Gyllenhaal?
Gyllenhaal. I stopped at the end of the
No,
name.
it's not. It's not that. It's not that. No, it's not. It's not the mispronounce. I'm sorry, Al. It's not the mispronounce. See, I can't even do it either. It's not saying the name wrong that I'm laughing at.
Yes.
It's just this. I don't know. It's this feeling that I understand people are isolated and they're trying to do what they can, and I do not disparage that. Fair enough. If reading a children's story is what they can do, great. I just.
Yeah. What's the issue with it?
Go on.
I'm not saying that. It's not. It's not. Again, I'm not doing it. I haven't made that effort. Fair play to them. I'm just wondering if, like, I saw some footballers donating £1 million. They're like, look, I can't do anything. I have to isolate. I can't leave my home. Here's £1 million for feeding those who are in need, or it's almost like, no, I don't. Whatever the reason why they did what they did with reading children's stories. But I'm concerned about tokenism in this situation.
Oh, no, I hear you.
Where people are like, hey, I know what I can do. Now, in saying that, hey, they might have children and they may be going bonkers because they need something to entertain their kids. And they might be at home locked in a 60,000 square foot mansion with a swimming pool, and they might not have anything to do there. But, sorry, that was very sarcastic.
No, at least people are able to see your face now as to how you're being sarcastic.
They've always wanted to know how he looks when he gets like this.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. This is the dream.
I don't know. I'm just trying to figure it out for myself too. Genuinely, I think that's probably what's going on here. It's me sitting at my home going, I'm an artist out of work. How can I contribute to the good?
Yeah.
So you've given us an example there, and I'm not disparaging that. I think I'm trying to figure out as well, what can I actually do? I don't have much to give. I'm barely surviving.
Well,
and so, yeah, maybe that's the way to go forward. Great. Take your gifts, give them away online, let other people benefit from them. So I'm backtracking now, and because I'm learning as I speak, but like, that's good on them. Well done. Fantastic.
Yeah. But I think that's the thing.
That's not sarcastic. Look.
No, I know it looks good. But it's the beauty of when you see Gal Gadot and whatnot doing their thing in relation to, imagine you're going, okay, are you doing this for the likes? So this is your token gesture of, oh, hey, let's bring everyone together with this one song. Isn't that wonderful? You're going, not really. I mean, it's entertaining because it's so cringy. But then you've got others who are actually, no, I want to do what is best for people to see. Because I'm the concern is there for kids. Like, I've noticed even in how the news is being done now, like tuning in each day to either 6 o'clock or 9 o'clock news. The 6 o'clock, they used to give the figures in relation to how many people have caught it, how many people have died. They're not doing that on RTE anymore. They're doing that at 9 o'clock. And I think it's been in the hope that children aren't being tuned into this because it's scary for kids. And so it is looking at, what are the creative ways? What can we do with what we have or with what we don't have? And I think that this is the problem. And we talk about tokenism, Greg, and you're right. Like it's questioning everything that we hold to value. I mean, like the postmen now are the people on the front line in
Mhm.
relation to going to houses. People who are in the shops, you know, in Super Value, in Tesco's. These guys are serving, and they are hoping that nobody is coming in with this virus. There's a trust on one level, but they're not wanting to have that much impact. They've got the screens up now, which is good for protection and whatnot. You're seeing it in chemists where they're not letting people in now. The queues outside all these shops for social distancing, like it's really good, but it is a stark reminder as to life is now very different,
Mm.
and we have to take it serious. And for those of us that are wondering what we can do, I think that's a great challenge and a
Mm.
thought provoke as to, well, what can I do? Like, I mean, I was honestly, I gave you guys a pick of a lot of books. I'm thinking, oh, I'll be able to read. I haven't touched one of them
Mhm.
because, like, the time it
Because
has
you're
been
watching too
busy.
much Netflix.
Yeah, man, we've got
Tiger
through. I
King.
mean, we'll get there, but I mean, like, it's just. I mean, life on one level is far busier now
Mhm.
than what it was before, because you are so aware there are so many people here that need to make sure they know they are connected and to make sure that they're covered and going, okay, they're fine. We move into this, then what can we do in getting groceries in and all that sort of stuff. It's a challenging time. And you're
So,
right, Greg. Like it's the tokenism that we need to be really, really careful of. Like, what is maintainable? Because I am seeing that with churches as to we can do all sorts of glitz and glam and how we present ourselves, but how maintainable is that?
it raises the
Because at the end
question.
of the
uh,
Scott.
sorry,
It
yeah, no,
raises
go.
it raises the question. When we go out to seek to meet these needs, do we start with a picture in our head of what's important because of our own value system, and whatever we deem as important is also in the area of what our gifting is. So it's like, oh, well, what's really important is to maintain church services.
Yeah,
Doesn't matter if it puts people in danger, because and thankfully we haven't seen this as much here, but we have seen it in other contexts where people are like, well, the Lord will overcome this because really this is what is the center of the community. And instead of listening to what the community actually needs, it has placed self at the top of the totem pole of importance for what needs to happen right
Mm.
now. And this is like, I mean, because I can understand, like, celebrities making this silly video or whatever. It's daft, and and it's something. It's almost nothing, but it's something.
It is.
And I mean the Imagine one. I don't, the Amy Adams, the reading stories one. I actually think that's kind of cute. But it does actually, a crisis like this makes you go, so what actually can I do? Like, in what way am I
yeah,
actually useful? And
yeah,
that can be a bit jarring, to be honest. Like, a lot of the things that I thought were really important that I was doing are no longer happening, and no one's noticed. And
It,
and part of that is just the nature of where things are at the moment. But I'm trying to figure out for myself then, okay, so how do I actually meet needs that are actually there, rather than just look for opportunities to look good doing something I deem to be useful? And
yeah,
that's harder.
because in the end, that's what we want to do. We just want to look good in a crisis.
Like, there is a brutal part of the way in which the world is at the moment, that everything is an Instagram opportunity. And
Oh, I know.
like,
That's why I went off it.
yeah. Yeah. uh, and I catch myself asking the wrong questions sometimes as well.
Yes.
And but I'm happy that I'm catching myself asking those questions, like questions that, like,
Yeah.
yeah,
about, is this going to make me look the way that I want to look?
Mhm.
It's all down to the question of, this is this surface or substance? Is this a facade I'm projecting to the world to continue to fight the good fight in my battle to say that I am worth loving, or that I mean
yeah.
something? Or am I actually serving somebody, actually providing value, actually answering a question that somebody is asking, or solving a problem that somebody deeply has? Um,
And,
yeah.
yeah, and I totally agree. And I think that, first of all, how long can we touch our face for today?
You can touch your face at home. That's fine.
Yeah,
um, I think
knock yourself out.
thanks, Al. I think that writers need to write, comedians need to comedy, comedian, whatever. I think actors need to continue. I think we have to continue to do what we contribute in a ways that we have always contributed. But I think you're right. It's like going, but is that the most important thing today? And I too, Scott, have been having those kind of moments of self-reflection where I'm like, you know, does the world need another music video right now?
Mm-hmm.
No. Would my bank account like that? Sure. But no. Does the world need a fictional book by me right now? No. Does the
I
world,
do.
you know, yeah.
I don't know. I'm living in hope here.
To be fair, actually, I have started writing one, but it's more that the frustration for those of us who live in the interaction of others and who do their best to develop community and to create art and to create conversation and to curate, walk alongside and curate lives. The people, those of us who do that for a living are now going, okay, so we're limited to this thing, this box that's sitting in front of us. Can we still do that? And how is that helping? But I think you're right, Scott. It's like, how do I lay down all the things that have defined me for the last 10, 20, 30 years for what's most important, right? And me, and then having to deal with how that makes me feel. My internet connection is unstable. Like
yeah, sorry, you dropped out for a little bit. You just said, you basically got lost after you said the things that I do for the last 20, 30 years.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Are useless.
But you were talking about swapping them for something else, and I think that was important, and we missed it. I mean, maybe the Lord is protecting us from it.
No, it's more that it's coming to the understanding that what I've done for decades, though it was important to me and part of my identity, what's needed right now is not Greg's identity or Greg. It's more. It's more important than just Greg, and having to deal with that. Not saying that what I've done or what I do is insignificant, but it pales in the significance of what is needed more right now. And so then it's trying to pivot. Now I know we're running out of time here, but it's trying to pivot from what I've done for a living for so long and earned a living for so long. Now I can't. And realistically pivoting towards this other thing is not going to provide, because I don't have the connections or the skill set of networking or whatever to do that. But how can I start to lean towards that? So in my life, I've connected with 2 NGOs. One who works with ex-offenders, and another who works with another type of disease that has ravaged lives and communities for centuries. And I've been doing my best to advise them. I thought, okay, what I can advise them, I can help them get the word out about what they're doing, even from my, office with all my books that no one reads. And so, I think that it's like, it's trying to look through my CV and through my life and go, okay, no, there are things I can contribute.
Yeah.
So what is it? It might not build my social media platform, and not bring in the money. It might not even make me feel good. It might not even make me feel like, look at me, I'm awesome, but it's what's needed and necessary.
Yeah.
And anyhow.
Yeah. One of the strange things I'm finding in the middle of this is that there's a pandemic that has hit the world, and it is a huge crisis for communities everywhere. And based on my skill set, my correspondence with my email pen pal in his 80s just became more important in this pandemic,
That's right.
not less.
That's right.
Yeah,
So
that's
if
right.
I was to paint a picture of how this would have looked in the past, I would have said, well, community, all these different things. I would have had these ideas in my head of.
That's right. Yeah.
But the people who are having the biggest impact right now are people who work on front lines in areas that I am not qualified for. Partially because, and probably the simple things that I can do is be in touch with people who are. That's not the glamorous thing that I thought I would be doing in a crisis. Like, I'm always front and center in the movie about this crisis in my head, and like realizing that if they were to make a film of this pandemic, I am not supposed to be seeking a role in it. Like, I'm supposed to be faithfully doing the thing that actually matters to people in order to help in the hope that that will create space for other people to do what they can actually provide, which is outside of my skill set. It's just a weird thing, because I feel like we're taught for so long to try and find not just something useful to do, but something useful that gets you talked about. And
Yeah.
and those two things need to be separated, because what's useful is not always worth talking about, and what's worth talking about is not always useful.
And you're 100% right. And to end this episode, who would play you guys in the movie of this disaster?
Denzel Washington.
Ryan Dunn. Who did you say, Scott? Who did you say? Did Scott say?
Ryan Dunn.
Who's Ryan Dunn?
No, I'm actually getting his name wrong.
It's your man. Is that the guy from Jackass?
Yeah, that's that. I got his name wrong. That's not actually the guy I was thinking of. The guy who plays. I think, let's face it. Like, if it's a comedy version, like if there's a humorous element to it, it's definitely Seth Rogen. Like, he's gonna play me without question. And if it's the serious one, if it's a serious version, it's The Rock, but with a beard.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
For me, serious or non-serious drama.
We just lost you. Go ahead.
Yeah,
go
say
again.
that again.
Yeah.
You need to say it again.
Whether it's serious or drama, for me, it's got to be. Whether it's serious or drama, for me, it's got to be Zach Galifianakis.
Oh, nice.
That's an excellent shout. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think I can say we all look forward to the release of that film. All right, gents. Looking forward to talking to you again soon.
Yeah, be good.
Stay safe, stay connected. Bye. It's been a while since I've been in either this position or this position. So.
It's normally this position.